The wind outside the outpost howled like a hungry beast. The sky above the barren planet was painted in deep purple, broken only by two pale moons that watched over the wasteland. Inside the metal shelter, a single light flickered as Ethan Cole, a human mechanic, tightened the last bolt on a broken power unit. He lived alone on Station 47, a forgotten mining colony far beyond human space. The place was quiet, too quiet sometimes. Only the hum of old machines and the whisper of the desert wind kept him company. It had been years since he'd seen another human face. That night, as he sat near the heater eating a cold ration bar, a sound reached him. At first he thought it was the wind again. But no, the sound came again, sharper this time. It was a cry, weak and trembling, like something small and afraid. Ethan froze. "What the hell was that?" he muttered, grabbing his flashlight. No animal should be alive out there. The air was thin, and the cold could kill in minutes. Yet the cry continued, echoing through the metal corridors, faint but real. He pulled on his jacket, strapped on his helmet, and stepped out into the dark. The wind bit into him, slicing through his suit like knives of ice. His boots crunched against the frozen sand as he followed the sound toward the edge of the supply yard. The cry grew louder. It was coming from behind the old fuel tanks. Ethan pointed his flashlight and froze. A small creature covered in striped fur lay curled on the ground. It shivered violently, its ribs showing through its thin body. Its fur glowed faintly blue under the light, and its eyes, large, golden, and full of fear, looked straight at him. "Holy crap. You're just a baby," Ethan whispered. It was no animal he knew. The creature looked like a mix between a tiger cub and a lizard, with small claws and a long tail that twitched weakly. Its breathing was shallow. It was starving. Ethan's instincts said run. The alien world was full of dangers. Some species could carry poison, others could lure prey by pretending to be harmless. But something about the little thing stopped him. Maybe it was the eyes. They didn't look like a predator's eyes. They looked desperate, he sighed. "All right, little guy. Don't bite me, okay?" He took off one glove and reached out slowly. The creature flinched but didn't move away. Its skin was burning hot like fever. Ethan lifted it carefully and held it close. The cub made a weak noise, pressing its head against his chest. "Yeah, I got you. Let's get you warm." Back inside, he laid the creature near the heater and fetched some water and dried protein bits. It sniffed the food, unsure, then started eating fast, too fast. Ethan chuckled softly. "Easy there. You'll choke." As it ate, he noticed something odd. There was a thin metal collar around its neck, glowing faintly with alien symbols. Someone or something had owned it. That made him uneasy. He sat back and stared at it. "Where the hell did you come from?" Outside, the wind grew louder again. The night seemed to press against the metal walls, heavy and alive. Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching. The cub finished eating and curled up, purring softly. Its tail flicked lazily. Despite his worry, Ethan couldn't help but smile. "Guess you can stay for the night, huh?" He didn't know what he had just invited into his life. Hours later, while Ethan slept in the next room, the cub stirred. Its golden eyes opened, glowing faintly in the dark. It lifted its head, ears twitching. From far, far away, beyond the dunes and the canyons, came a low, rumbling growl that vibrated through the ground. The cub stood up, answering with a tiny roar. The sound was weak but clear. A signal. Somewhere beyond the horizon, something massive turned its head toward Station 47. A pair of golden eyes, just like the cub's, flashed in the darkness. Ethan, half asleep, frowned as the heater flickered. He felt the ground tremble ever so slightly. Then silence. He shook it off and went back to sleep. But outside, across the cold desert, the mother had heard her child's call, and she was coming. The next morning came slow and cold. The sky was still dim, the light of the twin moons fading into a hazy dawn. Inside the outpost, Ethan woke to the soft sound of movement. The little alien cub was awake, pacing near the door, its tail swishing nervously. It looked stronger now. Its fur shimmered faintly under the light, like metal dust in sunlight. When it saw Ethan, it gave a tiny chirp as if greeting him. "Well, you survived the night," he said with a tired grin. "Good for you, little guy." He poured some water and crushed food pellets into a bowl. The cub jumped forward, eating like it hadn't eaten in days. Ethan sat beside it, sipping his cold coffee, watching in quiet amusement. But that peace didn't last long. A faint rumble echoed through the desert. The floor beneath his boots trembled. Ethan frowned and stood up, peering through the narrow window slit. The horizon rippled with heat waves and dust, but then he saw it, a shadow. A large one. Something was moving through the storm. It was fast, graceful, and far too big to be human. What the hell? He whispered. The cub froze, its ears twitching. It gave a low, uneasy growl and backed toward the heater. Its golden eyes widened. Not in excitement, but in fear, Ethan turned to it. You know what that is, don't you? The rumble grew louder, turning into a deep, rhythmic thud. Like footsteps of something with massive paws. Dust swirled outside the dome. The scanners on the console began to beep. The radar picked up a moving life form. Large, heavy, and closing fast, damn it. That's no storm, Ethan muttered, grabbing his pulse rifle from the rack. He wasn't a soldier anymore, but old habits came back quick. He switched the safety off, adjusted the scope, and crouched near the door. The noise stopped. Silence filled the air, thick and tense, then a roar. It wasn't just loud, it was felt. The kind of sound that made your bones shake and your heart freeze. The cub whimpered and ran behind the metal crate. Ethan aimed the rifle toward the sound, his breath slow, steady. Through the dusty window he saw her. A creature stepped out from the storm. She moved on 4 powerful limbs, her body tall and sleek like a tiger's, but with smooth metallic scales mixed into her fur. Blue energy pulsed faintly through lines on her skin. Her tail was long and barbed at the end, swaying slowly like a weapon, and her eyes, bright, golden, and intelligent, locked directly on the dome. Mother of God, Ethan whispered. He could feel the weight of her presence even from a distance. She wasn't just an animal, she knew. She was looking for something, or someone. The cub cried out suddenly, a high-pitched wail that echoed through the metal walls. The creature outside froze, then turned her head sharply toward the sound. Her ears flattened, and a deep growl rumbled from her chest. Ethan cursed under his breath. Oh, no, 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 no. The alien tigress began moving again, straight toward the base. Each step was slow, deliberate, terrifying. Ethan tried the comms, but the signal was dead. The outpost was too far from any human relay. He was alone. He glanced at the cub, which was trembling behind the crate. That's your mom, isn't it? You brought her here. The cub looked at him, almost guilty, then back at the door. A heavy thud shook the wall. Dust fell from the ceiling. The outer gate sensors screamed warnings. Pressure readings off the charts. Ethan backed up, rifle raised, another thud. Metal groaned. Then silence again. Ethan waited. Every muscle in his body was tense. He aimed at the entrance hatch, finger on the trigger. Then he heard it. A soft, low sound through the speaker. A voice. Not human. Deep. Female. It spoke in broken words, but clear enough to chill his blood. You feed my child, Ethan blinked, stunned. You can talk? You feed my cub, the voice repeated, louder this time. Why, human. Ethan hesitated, lowering the rifle just an inch. Because he was starving, he said slowly. Because I couldn't just let him die. There was a long pause. He heard her breathing through the comm mic, heavy and slow. Then a new tone entered her voice, something dangerous, something wild. Stepped outside, human. Ethan swallowed hard. You want me to step outside? Yes, I will see you. Myself. The cub chirped softly as if trying to calm its mother's fury. The great creature outside went quiet, but her shadow stayed, tall, powerful, waiting. Ethan looked down at the cub, then at the locked door. His pulse raced. Every instinct screamed, don't open that door, and yet something deeper, something human, told him he had to face her. He took a deep breath, unlocked the airlock, and stepped into the storm. The wind tore at his coat. Sand stung his face. And there she was, standing just a few meters away, towering over him, eyes burning gold against the gray sky. For a long, terrible moment, neither moved. The storm howled around them. Then, slowly, the alien tigress lowered her head, and she spoke again, softly this time. You have done what few of your kind ever do. Her golden eyes glowed brighter. You showed mercy. Ethan exhaled in disbelief, lowering his weapon slightly, but before he could speak again, she stepped closer, graceful, dangerous, mesmerizing, and whispered, Now, human, you owe me. The storm screamed around the two figures. One human, one alien beast, locked in a silent stare. Ethan's heart pounded so hard, he thought it might break through his chest. The creature's golden eyes glowed brighter than lightning. Every muscle in her powerful body seemed ready to strike, yet her voice was calm, deep, and haunting. You showed mercy. Now you owe me. Ethan stood his ground, snow and dust swirling around his boots. I didn't do it for a debt, he said firmly. Your cub was dying. I just helped. The tigress tilted her head slightly, studying him. Her fur shimmered under the storm's lightning, silver and gold like molten metal. When she finally spoke again, her words rolled like thunder. On my world, mercy binds two lives. You saved my child. So your life is now linked to mine. Ethan blinked. Linked? What does that even mean? She took a step closer. The ground trembled. Ethan could see every detail now. The scars across her shoulders, the faint blue glow running under her skin like veins of light. She wasn't just an animal. She was something ancient, intelligent, and far beyond human understanding. The cub squeaked from inside the base, pressing its tiny paws against the window. The tigress's gaze softened for a brief moment. She turned back to Ethan. You call me a beast, she said, but we are not mindless. My kind ruled the Eleran moons before your species learned fire. You humans come to take our ores, our sky. And yet you fed my cub. Ethan slowly lowered his rifle. So what now? You gonna kill me for trespassing or thank me? The tigress let out a deep rumble, something between a growl and a laugh. Her fangs flashed in the dim light. Neither. You will repay what you gave. Ethan frowned. And how exactly do I repay feeding a starving cub? By surviving what comes next. Before he could ask what she meant, the ground shook again, harder this time. A distant explosion echoed across the desert. Ethan spun around. Far on the horizon, dark shapes rose into the air, ships, metallic and angular. Pirates. His eyes widened. Oh no, not them again. The tigress's ears twitched. She lifted her head, sniffing the air. Hunters, she said grimly. They follow your kind's scent and mine. Ethan cursed. They must have tracked my beacon when I fixed the relay yesterday. The tigress's golden eyes flashed. Then prepare yourself, human. They are not here for you. They come for me. And they will kill everything that stands in their way. Before Ethan could reply, a fiery streak crossed the sky. A missile slammed into the sand dunes not far from the outpost, sending a shockwave that rattled the metal walls. The cub squealed inside. Ethan's protective instincts kicked in. He ran toward the door, yelling over the storm. Get inside. You'll be torn apart out here. But the tigress didn't move. She stood tall, her tail lashing, eyes locked on the incoming ships. This is my fight, she growled. Go protect the cub. I'm not leaving you out here, Ethan shouted. For a moment, the tigress looked at him, really looked at him, as if measuring something invisible inside him. Then she nodded once. So be it, human. Together they moved. Ethan sprinted to the outer defense console, while the tigress leaped to the top of a fuel tank with inhuman speed. Her muscles rippled like liquid steel. A bright pulse erupted from her chest, forming a glowing field around her, a shield of energy that shimmered like sunlight through water. The first pirate ship swooped low, guns blazing. Ethan ducked behind a barrier as plasma shots struck the ground. He hit the console, activating the old mining turrets. They groaned to life, firing weak bursts of energy into the sky. Come on, hold together, he muttered. The tigress roared, a sound so powerful it made the air vibrate. She leaped straight onto a passing hovercraft, tearing into its hull with claws that cut through metal like paper. The craft spiraled out of control and exploded in a flash of blue fire. Ethan stared in awe. She's unstoppable, but there were too many. More ships approached, 5, maybe 6. Ethan's pulse quickened. He knew the turrets wouldn't last. We can't win this, he shouted through the comm. You fight because you must, came her reply. That is the price of mercy. The words burned in his mind. The price of mercy. Ethan aimed the last turret manually and fired, hitting a gunship midair. It went down hard. But another missile slammed into the base, shaking the ground and throwing him to his knees. Sparks showered around him. He heard the cub's frightened cry. Hold on! He yelled, scrambling to his feet. Through the smoke he saw her, the tigress, wounded. One shoulder scorched, still fighting, still roaring defiance at the sky. She met his eyes through the haze, and for the first time Ethan realized this wasn't just survival. It was something ancient, a bond between two species that had no reason to trust each other, but did. He grabbed his rifle and ran out into the storm beside her. Two figures, one human, one alien tigress, standing against the fire of the heavens, and somewhere deep inside him Ethan knew. This was only the beginning of what the universe would demand for his small act of kindness. Smoke curled into the storm-filled sky, painting the horizon in fire and shadow. Ethan's ears rang from the last explosion. His chest burned, his hands shaking as he gripped the rifle tighter. The outpost that once felt too quiet now pulsed with chaos. Alarms screaming, metal groaning, dust raining from the ceiling, and in the middle of that chaos stood her, the alien tigress. Her fur blazed with streaks of blue light. Every move she made was fierce, graceful, almost beautiful. Plasma fire cut through the air, but she moved faster than sight, her claws glowing as she ripped another drone from the sky. Ethan ducked behind the console, breathing hard. "That's 3 down, maybe 4 left," he shouted into the comm. Her deep voice answered through static. "More will come." "They smell blood," he peeked out. "Then let's make them choke on it." The tigress turned her golden eyes toward him. For a heartbeat, Ethan thought he saw something there. Respect, maybe even admiration, before she leapt again into the smoke. Another gunship roared overhead, dropping a squad of raiders in black armor. Human faces, but twisted, greedy, cruel. Space pirates. They moved fast, firing plasma rifles toward the dome. Ethan ducked as a blast scorched the wall above his head. Sparks flew. He aimed his rifle and returned fire, his shots snapping through the air. One pirate fell, then another. But they kept coming, shouting orders through cracked helmets. "Come on, come on," Ethan muttered, slamming a fresh energy cell into his rifle. The cub hid inside a storage crate, trembling. Its golden eyes peeked through the slits, watching everything. Then a shadow moved behind Ethan. He turned too late. A pirate slammed him to the floor, rifle aimed at his chest. "You picked the wrong planet, old man," the raider snarled. Ethan gritted his teeth, pushing against the weapon. The barrel burned against his armor. He could smell ozone and blood. Suddenly, a blur of silver and gold, the tigress hit the pirate like a thunderbolt, sending him flying across the room. The man screamed before the impact silenced him forever. Ethan gasped, heart pounding. The alien stood over him, breathing hard, her claws dripping with blue plasma residue. "Stay close, human," she growled. "They want you alive." "I don't know why," he nodded, still catching his breath. "Yeah, well, I'd prefer to stay that way." Together they moved through the ruins of Station 47, one step, one breath, 1 second at a time. The pirates regrouped outside, forming a perimeter. Ethan could hear their captain barking orders. "Find the beast and her pet human. Bring me the cub alive." Ethan's jaw clenched. He turned to the tigress. "They're after your child." She bared her fangs, her voice a rumble. "Then none of them leave this place breathing." The air grew heavy. Her eyes glowed like fire. Ethan almost stepped back, but something inside him told him not to fear her. Not anymore. He checked his ammo. Only a few shots left. "We can't fight them all," he said. "We need to think." She looked toward the generator room. "Power. You have a core that burns bright?" Ethan nodded. "Fusion cell. Why?" A small, dangerous smile crossed her alien face. "Then let them walk into the light." Ethan followed her plan without question. They rerouted power to the old mining grid, turning the entire outpost into a trap. Energy hummed beneath the floor. Cables glowed like veins of fire. The pirates broke through the outer wall moments later. "Now," she roared. Ethan hit the switch. The fusion coils overloaded. A blinding surge of white light burst through the corridor, engulfing the raiders. The explosion thundered through the desert, sending fire high into the storm clouds. When the smoke cleared, the outpost was half destroyed, but silent. Ethan coughed, brushing soot off his jacket. "Remind me never to make you angry." The tigress turned, her chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. "You fought well, human. My kind would call you a claw brother." He blinked. "That sounds like a compliment." "It is." The cub ran out, squealing in joy, pressing against her leg. She nuzzled it gently, a sound almost like a purr rumbling from her throat. For a moment the storm faded, and the firelight painted them in soft gold. Ethan felt something shift in his chest. Not fear, Not survival, but something deeper. Trust. Connection. But then she turned toward the horizon, eyes narrowing. Her tone changed, sharp, alert. They will not stop. Those you killed were only scouts. Ethan's stomach dropped. You're saying more are coming? She nodded slowly. The one who hunts me, commands fleets. He will burn this world to find me. Ethan looked around at the wrecked outpost. Then I guess we'd better not be here when he arrives. Her eyes met his. You would run with me? He shrugged, smirking slightly. You saved my life. I saved your kid. I guess we're even. The tigress tilted her head, almost amused. No, human. We are not even. We are bound. Lightning flashed behind her. Outlining her powerful form against the storm, Ethan felt the weight of her words. Bound. He didn't yet understand what that truly meant, but deep down, he knew it was more than a promise. It was fate. As the storm rolled over the burning desert, the three of them, the human, the cub, and the alien tigress, disappeared into the darkness, leaving the ruins of Station 47 behind, and somewhere in the sky above, unseen by human eyes, a massive battleship began its descent. The night sky burned red. What was once calm desert was now alive with chaos, smoke trails, falling debris, and lightning that split the horizon in two. Ethan's boots sank into the sand as he ran, every breath sharp and cold in the thin air. The small alien cub clung to his arm, its golden eyes wide with fear. Behind him, the tigress moved like a shadow made of flame. Her massive paws made no sound as she glided across the dunes. The faint blue lines beneath her fur glowing brighter with each step. They had escaped Station 47 only minutes before it exploded into fire and ash. The air still smelled of burnt metal. Ethan stumbled to a stop near a rocky ridge, gasping for air. We can't keep running forever, he said between breaths. The tigress turned her gaze toward the stars, her expression unreadable. We run until the sky stops hunting, she said in her deep, steady voice. He frowned. And when will that be? Her golden eyes shifted toward him. When he is dead. Something in her tone sent a chill down his spine. He? She nodded slowly. The one who sent the hunters. My kind call him Vorshan, the flame warlord. He hunts what he cannot control. And now he hunts me. Ethan stared at her. Why you? Because I refused to kneel. Her answer was simple and terrifying. The wind howled across the desert, kicking up dust. In the distance, Ethan could see lights moving across the sky. Ships still searching. He knelt beside a half-buried hatch in the sand, brushing off the dust. Beneath it lay the entrance to an old ore hauler tunnel, a forgotten relic of the miners who'd vanished decades ago. Down here, he said. It'll hide us from scanners. The tigress sniffed the air, then nodded. Go first. I will follow. They descended into the tunnel. It was dark, cold, and silent, except for the faint hum of ancient machinery. The cub made small squeaks, pressing close to Ethan's chest as if sensing the danger above. Ethan switched on a dim light from his wristband. You know, he said quietly, I used to think aliens were just myths. Then I found your kid stealing my food. The tigress glanced at him from the shadows. And yet you did not kill him. I'm not built that way. That is what makes your kind dangerous, she said. You fight not for power, but for reasons even you do not understand. He half smiled. We call that being human. For a while they walked in silence. The tunnel stretched for miles, a grave of rust and silence. Strange alien symbols glowed faintly on the walls, marks of those who had once worked there. Ethan brushed his hand over one of the markings. Whoever built this, they were human, but these symbols aren't. The tigress paused beside him. No. My kind built these tunnels long before your species arrived. Your people only found the bones of our cities. Her voice was quiet, almost sad. For the first time, Ethan saw more than strength in her. He saw loss. Vorshan destroyed my pride, she said softly. He took my brothers, my sisters, even my mate. My cub is all that remains. Ethan looked at the little one sleeping in his arms. Then we protect him, together. The tigress tilted her head. You speak as if you share my blood, he gave a faint grin. Maybe mercy runs deeper than blood. Before she could answer, a deep rumble echoed through the tunnels. The lights flickered. The ground trembled. Ethan froze. Tell me that's not what I think it is. The tigress's eyes narrowed. They found us. The wall at the end of the tunnel exploded inward. Fire and smoke filled the chamber. Ethan dropped behind a pillar, shielding the cub. From the dust stepped armored soldiers, not pirates this time, but elite hunters, their armor engraved with red sigils. And behind them, tall and monstrous, came a figure wrapped in black metal and flame. Vorshan. His armor shimmered like molten glass. His voice was a growl that rattled the air. "You cannot run from me, Liara." Ethan's heart skipped. Liara, the tigress's name. She stepped forward, muscles tense, tail raised. "You've come far, warlord. Leave now, and I may let you crawl away." Vorshan laughed as a deep, cruel sound. "You still speak as if you have power, but you hide behind a human now. How low the proud have fallen." Ethan raised his rifle. "Keep talking, metal face. I love a good villain speech." The warlord turned to him slowly. "A human. You're the one who fed her cub." Ethan met his glowing eyes without fear. "Yeah, got a problem with that." The air shimmered. In a blink, Vorshan vanished and reappeared behind Ethan, his hand closing around the human's throat like iron. Liara roared, the sound shaking the walls. She lunged, slamming into Vorshan with full force. The impact sent both crashing into the tunnel wall. Sparks flew. Ethan gasped, rolling away, clutching his neck. The cub cried out. The tunnel filled with smoke and flashes of blue light as the two titans clashed, claws against steel, fury against fire. The ground split, stones raining from the ceiling. Ethan grabbed the cub and ran deeper into the tunnels. Come on, he shouted, dodging falling debris. Behind him, Liara screamed in rage and pain. "Run, human! Protect my child!" Ethan turned back once, just long enough to see Vorshan drive her into the wall, sparks exploding like stars. Her golden eyes met his through the smoke, fierce, unbroken, alive. Then the ceiling collapsed between them. Ethan fell to the ground, coughing, clutching the cub close. The tunnel sealed with rock and dust, separating them. Above the roar of fire, he heard Vorshan's voice echo one last time. "Your mercy has cursed you, human. She is mine," and then, silence. Ethan stared into the dark, the cub trembling in his arms. His chest ached, his hands shaking. He whispered almost to himself, "I'm coming back for her." The cub looked up at him as if it understood. Its small paw touched his face, warm, trembling, alive. Ethan stood, firelight glinting in his eyes. "I'm not done yet." Outside, the warlord's fleet moved across the night sky, unaware that the real war was just beginning. The air in the tunnels was thick with smoke and silence. Ethan stood there, chest heaving, dust clinging to his face. The ground still trembled from the battle above. His hands shook as he brushed rubble off the small alien cub, clutched against his chest. The little one whimpered softly, pressing its glowing forehead against his arm. Its golden eyes were wet with fear, but also something else. Trust. Ethan stared at the collapsed wall that separated him from Liara. From behind that wall, no sound came. No roar, no breath, just silence. He dropped to his knees. No, she can't be gone. He pressed his hand against the cold stone as if somehow she could feel it. "You saved my life," he whispered, voice breaking. "I won't let that be the end of yours." The cub gave a tiny cry, echoing softly in the dark. Ethan looked down at it, determination hardening in his eyes. "We're getting her back." Hours passed. The dust began to settle. Ethan scavenged what little equipment he had left. A half-charged rifle, a cracked datapad, and a damaged oxygen mask. The cub followed him everywhere, refusing to leave his side. He found an access hatch deeper in the tunnels, leading to an old mining transport shaft. "If Vorshan took her, he'll head for the surface," he muttered. "That means we can follow him." The cub chirped as if agreeing. He pulled himself into the lift and started the manual crank. The gears screeched in protest, sparks flying as ancient machinery came to life. Slowly, painfully, the lift began to rise. When it reached the surface, the sight took Ethan's breath away. The desert was no longer silent. Far on the horizon, massive black ships floated in the red sky, Vorshan's fleet. The ground was covered with landing crafts, patrol drones, and armored soldiers moving in perfect formation. In the center of it all was a towering fortress made of metal and flame. That's where she was. "Hang on, Liara," Ethan said under his breath. "I'm coming." Under cover of night, Ethan moved through the ruins of the desert, using what was left of his training as a colony engineer and ex-soldier. Every sound, every movement, every shadow mattered. He carried the cub in a small sling at his chest. It stayed quiet, as if sensing the danger around them. Its golden fur glowed faintly under the moonlight. A tiny beacon of hope in a world swallowed by war. Ahead, guards patrolled the fortress gates. Their armor gleamed red under the lights. Ethan whispered, "We'll need a distraction." The cub blinked at him, then tilted its head. Suddenly it gave a tiny squeak, a sound that grew louder, vibrating like a frequency pulse. The ground around them shimmered. The guards stopped, confused, scanning their senses. "What the—" one shouted. Then the sand beneath them shifted, a small explosion of dust and sound that sent them stumbling back. Ethan didn't waste a second. He dashed through the smoke, slipping past the gate into the shadows. "Nice work, little guy," he whispered, patting the cub gently. Inside, the fortress was a nightmare of steel corridors and glowing red light. He could hear the distant hum of generators and the echo of chains. And then, faintly, "A roar, Liara," he breathed. He followed the sound down a narrow hallway, heart pounding. Then he saw her. She was chained to the wall, her body covered in scorch marks and deep slashes. Her blue veins of light flickered weakly. But her eyes, her fierce golden eyes, still burned. "Liara," he whispered. She lifted her head slowly. "Human, you came back." He ran to her side, pulling at the energy cuffs around her wrists. "I told you I would." "You are a fool," she said weakly. "Vorshan will kill you." Ethan grinned through the sweat and fear. "Then he'll have to stand in line." The cub crawled onto her chest, purring softly. Liara's eyes softened for the briefest moment. "My child, you are safe." Ethan yanked a wire from his datapad, connecting it to the cuffs. "Hold still. I'm going to short these." Sparks flew. The cuffs hissed and fell away. Liara slumped forward, weak but free. Then a deep voice filled the room. "Touching." Ethan spun around. Vorshan stood in the doorway, his armor glowing red like molten lava. His burning eyes fixed on Ethan. "You should have run while you had the chance, human." Ethan raised his rifle even though he knew it was useless. "Yeah, well, I'm bad at running." Vorshan stepped closer, his voice echoing like thunder. "Do you think mercy makes you strong?" Ethan smirked. "No, it makes me human," he fired. The blast hit the warlord's chest and did nothing. Vorshan laughed, raising his hand. A burst of red energy threw Ethan across the room. He slammed into the wall, his rifle shattering. The cub screamed. Liara roared, her fury igniting the air around her. Blue fire flared from her wounds as she lunged forward, striking the warlord with all her strength. The fortress shook. Metal screamed. Sparks exploded. Ethan dragged himself to his feet, vision blurry, heart pounding. He saw the energy conduit behind Vorshan, glowing, unstable. He grabbed a shard of his rifle, jammed it into the conduit, and twisted. A surge of light flooded the room. Liara roared, wrapping her body around the cub and Ethan as the explosion tore through the chamber. Fire swallowed everything. When the smoke cleared, Ethan lay half buried in rubble. His ears rang, his body bruised. He coughed, pushing debris aside. "Liara," he called out weakly. From the haze, a shadow moved, tall, fierce, alive. Liara limped forward, blood glowing blue, the cub clinging to her shoulder. Vorshan was gone. Only melted armor and ash remained. Ethan smiled faintly. "Told you I'd come back." She looked down at him, eyes glowing with something new, not just respect, but something deeper. "And you did," she extended her clawed hand. "Rise, human. You have fought as one of my kind." He took her hand, struggling to stand. "So what happens now?" Her gaze turned toward the horizon. "Now we hunt the ones who still serve him." Ethan chuckled weakly. "I guess we're not done saving the galaxy, huh?" Liara bared her fangs in something that almost looked like a smile. "No, Ethan Cole. We're only beginning." And as the first light of dawn broke over the scorched desert, a human, a cub, and a tigress walked into the rising sun, bound by mercy, forged by war, and ready to defy the stars themselves. The desert had changed. Where once there was only silence and ash, now there was wind, carrying the scent of life again. The warlord was gone, his fortress reduced to molten ruins. Yet for Ethan Cole, victory felt hollow. He stood on a high dune, the twin suns rising behind him, turning the sand into rivers of gold. His clothes were torn, his body covered in cuts and bruises. The cub, Now stronger, its stripes glowing faintly, perched on his shoulder, purring softly. Beside him walked Liara, tall, fierce, but limping slightly from the wounds of battle. Her once glowing blue veins now pulsed with a dim light, like the dying embers of a star. Ethan looked at her. "You should rest." "You're still bleeding." Liara glanced at him, her golden eyes calm. "You forget, human, I do not rest. Not while my enemies still breathe." He smiled faintly. "Then it's a good thing we burned most of them." She huffed softly, almost like a laugh. They walked for miles in silence. The cub trotted ahead, chasing tiny sand insects, its playful squeaks echoing across the dunes. For a brief moment, the war, the fire, the fear, all of it, felt like a distant memory. But peace never lasted long on this world. As they approached the wreckage of an old human supply ship, Ethan stopped. "We can rebuild here. Get the comms working, call for help." Liara studied the horizon. "And when your people arrive, what will they do when they see me?" He frowned. "They'll see you as what you are. Someone who saved my life. Someone who fought beside me." Her tail flicked slowly. "Or they will see a monster. Humans fear what they do not understand." Ethan stepped closer, looking up at her. "Then I'll make them understand." She stared at him for a long moment. There was a strange softness in her eyes, something that hadn't been there before. "You speak as if you are not afraid of me." He grinned slightly. "After watching you tear through a fleet of pirates and crush a warlord made of fire? Yeah, I'd say fear isn't the right word. Then what is?" He thought for a moment, then shrugged. "Respect." Liara blinked slowly, then turned away, but not before Ethan caught a hint of warmth in her expression. Night fell. The desert turned silver under the twin moons. Ethan sat beside a small campfire made from wrecked ship parts, staring at the stars. The cub lay curled beside him, fast asleep. Liara stood a few meters away, gazing at the horizon, her silhouette glowing faintly in the moonlight. "Liara," Ethan called softly. "When you said we were bound, what did you mean?" She turned, her golden eyes reflecting the flames. "When one of my kind is saved, a bond is formed, a spiritual link. It is rare, ancient. It means our lives are tied. When one falls, so does the other." Ethan blinked. "You're saying, if you die, I die?" "Yes," he let out a low whistle. "That's one hell of a friendship." She tilted her head. "It is not friendship, human. It is fate." Ethan chuckled. "Guess I'll just have to make sure you stay alive, then." Liara looked at him, long, deep, thoughtful. "You speak lightly of death. Few humans do." He poked the fire with a stick. "Maybe that's because I've already faced it and lost everything once." Io gave me something to fight for again. For a long moment, neither spoke. The stars above shimmered, countless and bright, like silent witnesses to their fragile peace. Then suddenly, the cub stirred. It stood, ears twitching, and made a low growl. Liara stiffened. "Something's coming." Ethan stood up, gripping his rifle. "More of Vorshan's men?" Liara sniffed the air. "No, something worse." From the darkness rose a deep hum, the sound of engines. Ethan looked up and saw it. A massive ship descending slowly, lights scanning the desert floor. "Human design," Liara said. "Are your people?" Ethan's heart jumped. "Rescue? Or invasion?" The ship landed a few hundred meters away. Dozens of human soldiers poured out, armored and armed. One of them approached, scanning the wreckage. "Survivor found." The soldier shouted. Ethan stepped forward, hands raised. "Easy, I'm human, I'm alive." The soldier nodded, signaling the others to lower their weapons, until they saw Liara step out of the shadows behind him. Instantly, rifles raised again. "Stand down," Ethan shouted. "She's with me." "She's an alien combatant," one of the soldiers barked. "Step away, Cole." Liara growled, her eyes glowing, body tensing for a fight. Ethan turned to her. "Don't, please." For a long, tense moment, time froze. Then he stepped between her and the soldiers. "She saved my life. If you fire, you'll have to go through me." The commander frowned. "You can't protect her, Cole. Orders are to eliminate any alien hostiles." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Then your orders are wrong." Behind him, Liara's deep voice cut through the silence. "Enough blood has been spilled tonight." She stepped forward, towering above the soldiers, and then slowly knelt. "If this is how your kind repays mercy, then I pity you." The soldiers hesitated, unsure what to do. The commander looked at Ethan, then at the alien kneeling before him, proud, wounded, but unbroken. Finally, he lowered his weapon. "Stand down." "All of you." The others followed. Ethan let out a shaky breath, relief washing through him. Liara looked up at him. "Your people listen to you," he smiled. "Sometimes," the commander approached. "We'll take you both to orbit." "The higher-ups will want answers." Ethan glanced at Liara. "You ready for that?" Her eyes softened. "Where you go, I follow." "That is our bond," he nodded, placing a hand over his chest. "Then we face the stars together." As the ship lifted into the sky, leaving the desert behind, the cub curled between them, purring softly. Ethan watched the stars grow brighter, his heart steady for the first time in years. Liara's voice rumbled beside him. "You humans, always reaching for the stars. Perhaps now the stars will finally reach back." Ethan smiled faintly, whispering to himself, "Maybe this time we won't reach alone." And the ship vanished into the endless dark, carrying a human, a cub and a tigress warrior bound forever by mercy, fate, and the light of distant stars.